All right, let's get right into this. We're going to break down a pretty wild case that was handled by the consumer advocacy team over at Elliott Advocacy. And it's one of those stories that starts out great, a vacation in Portugal, but ends with a real shocker on the credit card statement. So picture this. You get home from a trip, you're looking through your charges, and then you see this number, $513. Just there. It's not for some fancy dinner, it's not for a hotel upgrade. So what on earth could it be for? And that's a quote from the guy this happened to, David Degagne. And I mean, who can't relate to that feeling, right? That little jolt of panic you get when you see a charge that makes absolutely no sense. So that's the big question here, isn't it? We're going to unpack exactly how this happened to David. And, more importantly, we're going to talk about how you can make sure this kind of thing never, ever happens to you. Okay, so let's set the scene. David's in Lisbon, Portugal. He's got his rental car. Everything seems totally normal. The real problem, well, that didn't pop up until he was already back home. And here are the nuts and bolts of it. You can see the huge gap between what he was expecting and what he actually got charged. He thought he'd owe about $37 for some tolls. But what he got was that plus this massive $513 charge for optional insurance he was positive he never agreed to. And this is the real kicker. This wasn't some simple misunderstanding. David had actually gone out of his way to avoid this exact situation. When he booked the car online, he saw the option for extra insurance, and he very deliberately clicked no. So, of course, David complained to the company, and the response he got is where this whole thing goes from being a potential mistake to a full-blown dispute. And there it is, the classic standoff. On one side, you've got David, who knows what he clicked online. On the other side, you have the rental company pointing to one simple, powerful thing, his signature on the contract. And legally, that signature is a really big deal. So you have to wonder, how does this even happen? Well, consumer advocate Christopher Elliott has a theory. It might be something called the sign here scam. You know the scene. You're at the counter, you're tired from your flight, and the agent just kind of whips through the digital contract on a tablet, says sign here, and you do. And it's only later that you discover what you actually agreed to. This is honestly the point where a lot of people would just give up. I mean, you signed it, right? Case closed. But it turns out, not necessarily. And this is where David's fight turns into a really important lesson for the rest of us. Okay, let's pause David's story for just a second, because this next part is all about you. This is the playbook. How do you make sure you never find yourself in this situation in the first place? It really comes down to doing your homework. Step 1, before you even pack your bags, call your credit card company and your own auto insurer. Find out what coverage you already have. A lot of times you're already covered. Step 2, when you get to that rental counter, slow down. I know they want to rush you, but take a minute and actually read what you're signing. And that leads to step 3. If you know you're covered, you have to be ready to politely but very firmly say, no thank you, over and over again if you have to. But what if you do all that and it still happens? Well, there's a plan for that too. It's often called the Elliott method. You start with a polite appeal to customer service. If that goes nowhere, you escalate. Find the names of company executives online and write to them. And if all else fails, your last line of defense is to dispute the charge directly with your credit card company. Okay, so now that we're all armed with that knowledge, let's get back to David's story. Remember, he had a signed contract working against him, but he also had a pretty powerful ally on his side. And this was the game changer. It wasn't just another email from a frustrated customer anymore. Now it was a well-known consumer advocacy group asking the company to take another look. And that gets a different kind of attention. And here's the company's response. Now, you gotta pay attention to the wording here. A gesture of goodwill. It's classic corporate speak, right? It lets them give the money back without ever admitting they did anything wrong. But hey, whatever the reason, the outcome is what counts. And there you have it. The charge was reversed. David got his $513 back. It was a long, frustrating road, but in the end, persistence and a little help paid off. We're going to give the last word to David himself. His frustrating experience really did become a lesson for the rest of us. And it's such a powerful reminder. When you're renting a car, the most important part of your trip might just be the few minutes you spend reading that contract before you even start the engine.